Alrighty, whenever you're ready.
I already hit the record button, so they just heard that. Hello, everyone! Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. It is Thursday. It is Halloween. Happy Halloween. All that kind of stuff. Actually, we were really fortunate today because it is Halloween and Julian is over in Asia. It's actually even Halloween night for him where everybody's out partying. So thank you very much, Julian, for your professionalism and turning up for the Daily Brief Baby Powder Report, which I thought was a very good report today. Saw lots of cross-validation of concepts and ideas that I was kicking around in the market, and of course, if you want to find out what Julian's big prognostication of the gold market is, then maybe consider joining the site and getting the word from the horse's mouth. But anyway, it is Thursday. Halloween, as I said, as well. We are coming up to the end of October, beginning of November, really interesting commentary, especially yesterday. It was Fed Day, and when I did this video, I explicitly said, do not trust anything until at least one full hour following the Fed announcement. And it almost seems like you might have been best just to wait one full day. But nonetheless, now that the majority of the earnings reports by big U.S. companies are out, and really, Canadian companies as well, earnings season, we'll call it. So that sort of driver has been priced into the market, and earnings on balance were fairly well received and reported, and what a surprise, stock market moved up. We also had the big unknown about what the Fed was going to do at the October 30th meeting. They've basically said they said their piece. And so as a result, the sort of dust following all those catalysts, now that we're on the other side of that, actually we're starting to see some clear direction in the market. And so right out of the gate, first things first, are we in a risk on or risk off environment? I think this graphic clearly illustrates as soon as we got through the earnings, and like I said, most of the earnings are done. We get through the Fed. All right, now that's not an unknown that has now been priced into the market. Let's get back to business. And right out of the gate, and really, I think probably the most valuable tool that all you free YouTubers and stuff, and even people at TRI and Daily Brief can take away from this is, let's follow how this yen acts versus US dollar. Put in just the cutest little W here overnight and is just taken off like a rocket. Bonds, same thing, and you can even see, even since I first did this report, we're still moving higher. And then, of course, the gold is leading the charge here this morning. So, risk off proxies? Whoa. Playing a bit of catch up here this morning, and I think we sort of talked about that, especially with things like the bonds. I mean, they came off a long way. So we're doing a bit of backfilling here. I don't know whether I'm ready to actually declare a bull in things like gold just yet. Still a little bit of cleaning up to do on things like I like to personally follow the biggest gold stock in the world, American Barrick. And how it's going to act, and we did this funny little sort of prognostication of what we thought was going to happen, and you can see that in essence we're just banging around here, bang, 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 bang. I will say, gold and silver stocks, we have gotten some follow through. Interesting how we had the tag of the trend line from the other side and then launched higher. Pretty skeptical, though, with all of these monstrous gaps here all to be filled in. And usually silver has a little bit of a tough time through November. And I noticed one of the silver stocks that I was following this morning that I'm very interested in picking up should we see signs of bottoms. the Great Panther, and he's right up against the bottom end of his range. And I'm, like, remember everybody, I'm like a cheap ass by nature, so I want to try and buy cheap stuff. Where the hell's that goddamn GPR? Here we are, right up against the bottom end of his range, so I'm watching this guy really closely, and of course I can't buy unless I start seeing some sort of W action here. So silver stock's having a bit of a hard time, and actually the biggest silver stock out there, First Majestic, unfortunately it's very difficult for me to go and actually pull the trigger on the buy side here. And if I'm thinking bots, then I've got 1 kilo, 2 kilos, probably another kilo in here somewhere would actually get me start thinking about bull flags heading higher. But as you can see, it's a bit of a mixed bag now. Right out of the gate this morning, the breadth of this stock market came off dramatically, and I was watching things like the Russell 2000. And it just got whacked here right out of the gate this morning. We've talked a little bit about stocks. Are they going to accept higher? Can we break out of this range here? And I don't know whether I don't think this debate is done. And what's fascinating about this, and of course this is, tinfoil hats and all that kind of stuff. What's fascinating about this is the option open interest. There are a ton of calls sitting on the open interest. Remember, tomorrow, Friday, is options expiry. And interestingly enough, there are a ton of puts right at like 300. So I got this sneaky suspicion that the option boys just want to park the market right into here tomorrow. And then probably, in the coming week, we're going to find out whether the stock market has any traction. Was reading some interesting rags this morning. They were talking about how SPY, this gap up here, and I don't know whether it's this one. Maybe it's around 295. This big gap right here. A lot of technicians are sort of using this gap. I was sort of, reading the rags this morning. They're using this gap as sort of the tell as to whether this is a bull. If the market can hold this gap over the coming, say, week or two and turn back higher and accept up to new highs, then the consensus is that we're in a bull market. Get ready. You can see we're having a really hard time up against this resistance level here. My hunch is we probably need to fill in the gap, but, again, I've said this to you before. It's just my opinion. You know what Brian's opinion's worth, even in Brian's eyes. We want to try and trade setups. Nice little doji up top there on the weeklies. Fractally action here on the dailies. And then remember we talked about that open interest on the options itself. Very interesting that they've decided to sort of park the market right here around this 302 level. And the options information just basically validates that. So heading over to the chart deck, we've been talking about this a while. Fractal top on the US dollar. Were we going to harami and actually inside bar? Technically, harami did fire, so watch these lows really closely. It feels as though this is AB equals CD heading lower. And maybe we're gunning for that gap down below on the US dollar index to be filled in. As I said, now we're starting to actually get some buyers come in on the Japanese yen, which probably isn't going to help the US dollar index too much. Also, too, if we change this to a line chart on the Japanese yen, come on, you. Oops, that's not the one I wanted to change. This one. I think you can see the cute little clothesline W there, right at the bottom of the megaphone. That's actually a trade setup, an expanding wedge setup. So, and then we talked about, long way down on the bonds. Could we see counter trend rally? And, I'll have to say, on balance, I was worried about all of these risk-off proxies and how they were going to act. They did come down, but I'll have to say, the gold and the metal markets held in a lot better than things like the bond and the yen. I don't know whether I'm ready to get all bullish. Good old LJ's trendline breakouts. Now that we've broken this significant trendline to the downside, what I'd really like to see, of course, is a nice W on the other side of this, fill in these gaps, clean all this up, and then maybe I'll start getting uber bullish. And like I said, I'm watching one silver stock in particular for sort of signs of bottoms. Remember, I'm a cheap ass hunting bottoms, lows, all that kind of stuff. That Great Panther, and then there's another cheap ass gold stock that I'm keeping an eye on too. This Alio, same sort of thing. Right up against the bottom end of its range. We've come back down into this original double bottom from the spring. So if I can start seeing signs of W's, and then, that gold chart that I just showed you a moment ago, if that takes like a couple weeks to develop here, I'm totally fine with that. I like that idea. It sits well with me. All right, so that's sort of your commentary on US dollar index, to a certain degree yen, and risk on proxies looking very heavy here now. Can the S&Ps actually accept this breakout level? My hunch is no, but at the same time, too, options expiry tomorrow. These guys have got this place parked. Risk off, enjoying a really nice counter trend rally here this morning. The gold, I'm skeptical. But at the same time, too, it's acted much, much better than some of its peers, like the bonds just got ripped. The yen got ripped. Both yen bonds and gold are showing signs of uppy, and our risk on proxies, like I said, showing signs of downy. Moving, specifically in the stock market, Julian loves to follow this Beyond Meat. And a really interesting anecdote here, and, maybe a little bit of sort of learning material for you guys. Use this for information going forward. We did a study of, I'm super interested in investing in 3D printing stocks right now. And this is an example of a 3D printing stock. This is VJet. And I've actually taken the price action of this VJet so you can see it in relation to like a new IPO like Beyond Meat. But this is basically what VJet did through its history. Also, too, this is good information for people that trade things like, or involved in cryptocurrency ICOs. Does this look kind of like a typical cryptocurrency chart that's come out of the gate? Quite often, the behavior in these, new issues. This was the 3D printing craze a few years ago. And this so happens to be Beyond Meat this year. And look at the similarities. Quite shocking. But, the real message that I wanted to drive home today was, you notice that, big, IPO, big jump up, big, fractally top, failure to come down into, head and shoulders objectives. I could easily see, on Beyond Meat, at some point there's going to be a nice little counter trend rally to relieve a bit of this oversold condition, And, just like this 3D printing company chart, what you see at the bottom here, that counter trend rally probably comes back and kisses like original breakdown levels. So you can see the original breakdown level on Beyond Meat, and notice, gee whiz, there's a big gap there. So, for those people that are interested in this Beyond Meat, you probably want to wait for price action that looks like this kind of like WE action. And on this move to new lows that you see on this 3D company, printing company, what do you think the odds are there was a bullish divergence that developed on this move to new lows? I'd say pretty high. And that set up this counter trend rally. But more importantly here, what I'm worried about for people on Beyond Meat is this, probably the best way to show you this is actually just to pull this silly chart up. Notice what happened following the counter trend rally is, I mean, look how long this is. That's like 2014, right? So 2014. Remember, what was Bitcoin doing in 2014? So the point being that's how long ago this story was. Beyond Meat might go through one of these scenarios. I think Beyond Meat's sort of like right here now, where literally the next 5 years it's just hurry up and do nothing. There are some similarities to things like altcoins. They might do this kind of pattern. You guys probably remember I used to talk to you guys about Verge. And where did good old Brian buy his Verge? And this is a tough one to see because you gotta find the data. But in essence, this is the same sort of conversation as this right here, where comes out. Can you see that Beyond Meat chart? Looks almost identical, right? Head and Shoulders breakdown failure, but then it's got to go through this period of just hurry up and do nothing. So I'm worried that people that are jazzed about that Beyond Meat don't understand that this thing could basically sit in the cupboard for a very, very long period of time here. And I'm just, again, I'm not really interested in eating insects and, horrible combinations of chemicals that you really have no idea what they're actually made of. But, from a trading perspective, I have no interest in investing this whatsoever. But from a trading perspective, I just thought that it would be valuable to give this to the community just so you can understand what these ICOs and IPOs and what they usually do following this sort of mania. We could be in a very, very long consolidation slide here. So just be cognizant of that. And maybe 2-3 years from now down the road, Brian will be like, okay, now we can start considering eating or buying and investing in Beyond Meat because it's gone through this long consolidation period. Wow, that sure was long-winded. I'm sure somebody's going to have some comments on YouTube about that rant. But anyway, there you go. Food for thought. We'll finish off today with a quick boo at crypto. It was interesting, of course, overnight, everybody was watching and waiting with bated breath. Is this gentleman's big call, is 16,000 going to be hit by the end of October? And, what's kind of cool about this was the market is actually setting up a bull move here. You don't know if it's going to come in, and you never know for certain if setups are going to work. It's all just statistical probability. But as we were sitting there last night, I was kind of like, you know what? There's some half-decent looking WE action coming in here. This happens to be looking at Stamp off the hourly chart, and you can see the A, B, C, D kind of thinking. So this is if this did resolve bullishly and the bull took over, this would be my sort of primary objective, about 12,000 on a rally here. But you can see just like this range, we basically drew the low of the range to the top of the range and then projected parking garages. That's what this box is here. This last rally, and notice I put on a 2.618, basically golden ratio times 2. Not really times 2, but you can see the sort of 1.618, 2.618 kind of idea. I don't know whether this is actually useful or not, but what I did notice was this blast off move. It did go just above that 2.618 and then came back down and had to settle down in the parking garage. Could we see that kind of move here? We blast off, we have to hit that 2.618, maybe even a little bit higher, and then come back down and settle in on the parking garage. Totally realistic. Also, too, and we seem to have quite a blossoming harmonics group on TRI site right now. Kevin was telling me their room is just totally active, and they're just having the great old time. AB equals CDs. This is my bot setup. This is not trading harmonics. It's like a bastardization of harmonics. But in essence, at these levels, this is the classic AB equals CD. And then also potential 1.272 and 1.618. These are what are called alt AB equals CD objectives. So technically, if we do actually break out here, all three of these levels are perfectly realistic harmonic objectives. And then, as I said, if we replicate this last move, which markets often do, and they often replicate in orders of magnitude. So the way that I would look at this is sort of like the small magnitude. And if we just simply replicate this behavior, this would be just like sort of one scale higher. Magnitude is totally possible. And I thought it was kind of amusing that 2.618, and if we replicate this behavior, gee whiz, that's going to be right up into Mr. I call markets 16,000 by the end of October. So technically this gentleman has another, 13 hours and 15 minutes to be proven correct. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we'll see. Only time will tell. If we actually look at the price action, I was actually really getting ready to strap on a long last night. And I like to trade on leverage and have fun over on the casino. So I actually had everything all set up, and I even had a cute little front run trade on the bot, because sometimes I like to, if I can get a W to come in before the 25 level, I'll sneak in off of this W, and then that way if the bot level fires, then I've got a nice little cushion. And trend line breaks, W's on other sides of trend lines. Technically that is what we call an LJ setup. But unfortunately something went wrong here overnight. So, you can see I identified a key low, identified a key high. Were we going to W? I was watching this really closely, had everything all mapped out, and, had alerts and alarms set. And unfortunately, boom, we broke through the lows here this morning, which does a couple things. I mean, first and foremost, we don't have a W. In fact, actually, we had an M that came in on that. So that sort of negates that W kind of conversation. And then also, too, off of things like the bot, we actually had to reset our count here. So you remember yesterday we were at 2, was over here. We need 3 lows, 1, 2, 3. So then we went and broke that low. And so now we're at new number 2 here. And then this morning we went and broke again the low. So our count for the bot is still sitting at 2. I actually do like this setup a little bit better, because now if we can come down, test these lows, the lows hold, and turn back up, we're still well below the bot level to enter the trade. And I get a nice clean W completely on the other side of this trend line, which makes me very happy. I like to see that. But as I sort of pointed out for the community this morning, because of this very wishy-washy price action, moving to new lows, etc., right now, all I say is that this is the bottom end of the range. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. Look at the size of that tail. This is the top end of the range. Wicks and tails like to get eaten. You can see how that's basically the POC. So for the time being, I'm just going to sort of cool my jets and just hope that we can get a nice W that comes in this trading range to set up this new long. But it's still going to take more work for me. Now, does that mean the market can't just take off like a rocket? The market will do any old damn thing it wants. It's just really for a guy like me, it's just a question of, do I have my setups that I know that I've vetted psychologically? And actually today in the daily brief, we had a very long conversation about, vetting setups and what does that look like, and how does I want to be a day trader be positioned right now. For whatever it's worth, I want to be a day trader is getting conflicting daily up but 4 hour down. So as a result, we're not doing anything right now on the I want to be a day trader model. But the point that I'm trying to make here is this is just a setup that I've come to feel comfortable with, relaxed with, low anxiety. I know that if I do get 3 lows here and I've got bot levels to work with, that anxiety-wise, if I take this trade and I risk against the lows, there's no guarantees it's going to work, but anxiety-wise, stress-wise, at least I feel a little bit more comfortable about taking a risk in the marketplace. So that's sort of what I'm seeing right now, and this is in essence sort of what I am waiting for. Can I get a third low now through this trading range? Can I get a W? And if all that sort of gels, then I'm probably going long. So just an FYI there. All right, the only other thing we'll mention here this morning, keeping a close eye on good old BNB, because I do think it's a good proxy for sort of the altcoin space. Through the baby powder report, we got some interesting opinions, anecdotes about, where the hell is the damn chart? There it is, about potential W's coming in on the altcoins. Looking a little bit better here. Nothing definitively bullish just yet. And then, on a day-to-day basis, we're actually probing the altcoin market now. Remember, we've got our Doge story, and I wonder if anybody actually took advantage of this pullback. We talked lots about if you did want to participate in Doge. Whoops. There is the breakout level. We talked about reload zones. If you want to participate in Doge, there is the reload zone. There is the POC. Now you've got levels to work with. So I wonder how many people who actually watched this video actually took advantage of that and picked up some Doge off of that breakout level. Be interesting to get some feedback on that. Maybe you're going to wait for a tag of value low. It's up to you. And again, it's up to your plan. And really the most important thing is it's up to how much anxiety you can live with as a trader. And that's the whole point of building trading plans, vetting setups, getting to the point subconsciously that you know that statistically when you take a trade, the edge is in your favor. And there's a bunch of them, Kevin's coin, love this. Went and snuck in, worked some bids in reload zone, same sort of concept, and just sort of bouncing around here. This little storage, we just bought the market structure W here. Interesting, reload zone bids probably would have been pretty slick here. But, has the bottom been broken? No. Is there anything for us to do right now? No. Simple as that. So it is interesting to see, like I said, we are probing the bottom on these altcoins, and there are some ideas out there. Caveat emptor. Remember this eternity? I was even talking about this recently on Twitter and stuff. Gee whiz, nice little tag into Mountain Man. If you were interested, did you pull the trigger? It's up to you and your plan. But anyway, just to finish off this video, been watching this BNB very, very closely. I think this is the tell, especially with China and all that, telling basically 2 billion people you have no choice now if you if you don't want to go to the gulag, if you don't want to be sent to re-education camps, you better go and buy all of the Ponzi coins and Chinese blockchain stocks you can, and you better express your loyalty to the Communist Party on the blockchain or you're screwed. So, if that has traction, oh goodness, this is going to be, maybe we haven't even started to see the top on crypto. I watched a guy yesterday who actually made an argument that he expects to see $5 million Bitcoin down the road. Oh my goodness. Oh, well, it is what it is. Just set yourself up that if that eventuality does happen, at least you can take advantage of that. I don't know whether I can make those kind of predictions. But over the short term, really interesting pivot that BNB came into. We had, oh yeah, I know, Kevin, I'm probably going on for half an hour here. I'm sorry. Way, way over time. But I just wanted to get all this stuff out. So, point here is, we did have a harmonic level that came into. We did look at our indicators, and they were all in divergence. So, you can see the trade metric, basically a tag of the 50% level is going to produce a 2.31 off of this M, which I think is perfectly respectable. Fascinating to watch the top of this trend channel, basically supporting price here. And very simply put, if this top is broken and the market can accept higher, you can see the internals are starting to turn back up here. Then I think, more and more rah-rah Bitcoin. Maybe we see 16,000 by the end of the day. Who knows? But at least the sentiment here is still positive. If this rolls over and we accept back below this trend channel top and we start probing against 50% rules and all of these indicators all start rolling over back to the downside, then I think altcoin market has to go back in the cupboard. Okay, I think I'll leave the free offering at that. Sure hope you enjoyed it. Always interesting to see your comments. Please don't understand. I'll try and be as polite as I can. I'm Canadian. I try and, PMA all of this out the butt. I appreciate that everybody has their own opinion. I have to say, I was actually quite touched at how many people yesterday commented about, no, Brian, you just keep being who you are and just keep doing your thing, and we'll be happy. So I'll just keep on keeping on, as I say on the site, and I hope you got some value out of this. All the best. Kavarkinator is passing on best wishes from Albuquerque too. And we had a great session with Julian in the Daily Brief today and the Baby Powder Report, so he sends his best wishes from Thailand. Have yourselves a great day. Play from a position of strength. Really try and vet out your trading plan so you're not so riddled with anxiety when levels do start appearing and setups start setting up. And of course, if you need some help with that, that's what our school is all about. All right, have yourselves a great day, everybody. All the best, and bye for now.